Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. But if you lose me, then you'll know I loved you, and I want you to go on living. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Hirsch, and this week we are doing another movie review. This is Vertigo, directed by the legendary Alfred Hitchcock, released in 1958, starring James Stewart, Kim Novak, Barbara Bel Geddes, and Tom Helmore. Yes, so the film was released in 1958 prior to Psycho, but Bernard Herrmann does do the score in this film as well, who went on to do the legendary score from Psycho. And this is an excellent score as well, that brings so much gravitas to the movie. Especially in the opening thing. I love the opening theme, and it goes beautifully with the visuals. And the visuals in this movie are just spectacular. But I love the opening credits where you see the close-up of the woman's face, and then it slowly goes red. It starts out in black and white, and then it goes red, and then you see some blue, and it's like, this movie's in color, screaming in your face. But yeah, a lot of great visuals, especially when James Stewart goes into like a state of vertigo. You get some really cool visuals there. So James Stewart stars as John Scotty Ferguson, and he is a retired police detective. And the reason he had to retire is because, and they show it at the beginning of the film, he was chasing down a criminal, him and a couple other cops. And what happened is he slipped and fell, and he was hanging on the side of the building, and he was really like freaking out because they were so high up. And what happened is one of the cops reaches out his hand, grab my hand, and then he slips and falls off the building to his death. And James Stewart is just horrified, and he develops a state of acrophobia, fear of heights, as well as vertigo. Yeah. Pretty messed up. He kind of is responsible for the cop dying, and obviously he feels horrible about that. And his best friend is played by Barbara Bel Geddes in the film, plays Marjorie Wood. And yeah, they're like best friends, although they were former lovers. They were engaged once before. And I definitely think that Marjorie still has a thing for him. Because, as the movie rolls on, she slowly starts to, get more attached to him, wants to know what's going on. She kind of gets jealous throughout the movie. So the basic plot of the film is one of Scotty's old friends, Gavin Elster, wants to hire him as like a private investigator, and he's like, oh man, I can't do this anymore, I'm retired. But he manages to con him into it, because he's intrigued by this story, because Gavin feels that his wife has a mental problem, because she just wanders off at various times throughout the day, and God knows what she's doing. That's why he wants to hire her. He doesn't believe that she's having an affair or anything. At least that's what he says. But he wants to know what's going on, if he's going to have her committed or something, because she just wanders off for hours and hours on end, throughout the day, and nobody knows what the heck she's doing, So he agrees to help his friend and become a private investigator. And he's hired by Gavin to watch his wife, Madeline. So he goes to get a kind of an eye on who she is. So he goes there when the two are having dinner at a restaurant to kind of watch her and get a visual of her. And she's like this drop-dead gorgeous a blonde bombshell like Marilyn Monroe, you know. And she's very intriguing, very mysterious, you know. There's something about her, you know. She's like an enigma or something. A kind of a lost soul, you know. And it's very interesting. So he starts following her everywhere she goes. He gets in the car and drives behind her and follows to see where she's going, you know. And at one point I'm like, this is kind of like stalking, getting paid to stalk someone. It's a little bit creepy at times, you know. And Alfred Hitchcock plays that up pretty well, you know, with the great score in the background and the suspense and the camera visuals, you know. It's like, wow, you're getting paid to be a stalker. I wonder if this is what it's like being a private investigator. It's interesting. And he starts seeing her go to, she goes out shopping, and he follows her to this church, and then she goes to this cemetery to see this woman. We see the gravestone. Her name is Carlotta. And then later on we see her go to this art gallery at a museum, and she just kind of stares at this painting, this beautiful painting of a young woman, beautiful, you know, looks very much like her, you know, almost like a dead ringer with the same hairstyle and everything, as you see right here. And it's like, what's going on with this? Is she like obsessed with this woman? Yeah. She goes to a cemetery. Now she's like staring at this painting for like hours, and you know, she's dressing herself up like the woman in the painting, making her hairstyle like the woman in the painting. What is up with this? Yeah, so we find out a little bit more about this woman, Carlotta. We find that Madeline was actually related to her, that she is the great-granddaughter of Carlotta, who was a woman who was like a mistress to this rich, wealthy man, and she ended up committing suicide. Apparently Madeline does not know about her, you know, doesn't know anything about her. She doesn't know that she's the great-granddaughter of this woman in the painting, you know. So it's very interesting. It's like, does she think she is this woman? Or is she this woman? Or is she just obsessed with this woman? What is going on here, you know? And it's like this web of intrigue going on with James Stewart as he follows her. And at one point, she goes to the San Francisco Bay and jumps in. And you're like, oh, she's trying to commit suicide just like Carlotta did, you know? So he jumps in after her, saves her like a real hero, you know. And takes her out of the water and saves her, you know. Takes her to his place. He didn't want to take her home, because then that would really complicate things. And he's supposed to be the private investigator, so she would find out about the whole thing. He manages to get all her clothes off, though, and puts her in his bedroom. She just wakes up naked in bed. And she's kind of like bewildered. What happened? You know, what happened? She knows what happened before she jumped in, but she doesn't remember jumping in, you know, trying to commit suicide or anything, or if she just fell in, or had some kind of case of maybe she fainted or something. But the two of them start talking, and they get to know each other, and James Stewart starts falling in love with her. That's a no-no, that's a no-no. Jimmy, what are you doing? So they start falling in love, you know. He starts going out with her, you know, and taking her for long walks, and they kiss several times, you know. So stuff starts really getting complicated, and as the story goes on, you find out a little bit more about her, and but by the end, you're like, whoa, you know, there's like some serious heavy-duty twists and turns towards the end there. I'm not going to give away, but all is not what it seems, and you know that when you see an Alfred Hitchcock movie, you're going to get these shocking twists and turns, and, it's great. It's great entertainment, great drama, phenomenal acting. The cast is just absolutely great. James Stewart is brilliant. Kim Novak is brilliant. She's not just beautiful, she's a fantastic actress. I love the way she plays this role as so mysterious, there's just something about her, You're like glued to this screen, not only because she's gorgeous, but because she's such an intriguing character, And then you have Barbara Bel Geddes' character, who's, she's in love with Scotty Ferguson, and she wants to help him, because she knows that he's tied up in this web of intrigue and this mystery, and she doesn't want him to get in trouble, and of course he does get in a whole heap of trouble, and we see that throughout the film. So yeah, I highly recommend Vertigo. I think it's an absolutely fantastic film. It's definitely an Alfred Hitchcock classic, without a doubt. Although when it was initially released, it got mixed reviews, which I'm blown away by. I can't believe how this film would get mixed reviews. This is an absolute classic. This is brilliant. This is genius direction by Alfred Hitchcock. How could it get mixed reviews? But things have changed over time, and people are realizing that this is a great film, and this is an Alfred Hitchcock classic. And it's a suspense, mystery, thriller classic. Absolute gem of a film. I highly recommend it. I give it 2 devil horns way up, and thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Urshan, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared.